At the start of our story, there's a strange scene. Imagine an office, but not a normal one. This office is covered in a giant spider web. Inside, the employees aren't moving. They're stuck in cocoons on the floor. It's like a nightmare. Now, let's meet our main character, Cooper. He's a guy who's always running late for work. As he rushes to the office, he's on the phone with his father. But his dad isn't happy. He's upset that Cooper keeps messing things up and embarrassing the family. Cooper tries to explain that things aren't so bad, but he's so caught up in the conversation that he almost gets hit by a car. Eventually, he makes it to the office. He works in a call center at a clinic. On his way to his desk, he cracks a few jokes about his colleagues. But before he can even start working, he's called into a meeting with his boss, Maureen. She's a woman in charge, and she's not happy. She got a complaint about Cooper's behavior with clients, and she's thinking about firing him. Then, out of nowhere, there's a deafening noise. The whole office goes dark, and everyone passes out. Days go by, and when people wake up, they're still in the office, but something's not right. The place is covered in webs, and creepy insects are crawling around, stinging the people in their cocoons. Cooper manages to break free from his cocoon, but he feels sick from some strange white slime. Suddenly, a giant beetle attacks him. Despite being scared, Cooper fights back and pushes the beetle away. After calming down, he realizes that his boss, Maureen, is trapped in a cocoon nearby. He tears the webbing and brings her back to consciousness. Maureen is also sick and confused. She remembers she was supposed to meet her daughter before all this happened. But where is her daughter now? And are there any people alive outside the building? Cooper and Maureen run out of the office and see that everyone on the street is stuck in huge cocoons. Maureen spots her daughter, Sarah, in a car, and Cooper offers to help. He helps Sarah break free from her cocoon, but she's disoriented and sprays gas in his eyes. Suddenly, a massive insect that looks like a wasp grabs Maureen and flies away with her. Sarah screams in horror, but can't do anything to save her mother. Cooper's eyes are burning, and they realize they need to get out of there fast. Huge bugs are everywhere. Sarah accidentally knocks over a garbage can, and they notice the insects react to sound. She activates the car alarm, and the bugs swarm towards it. This distraction allows them to escape. Desperate for shelter, they find a cafe. Sarah is worried about her mother and wants to know what's going on, but Cooper is cautious. He's not sure how people will react, and explaining everything is exhausting. Suddenly, a man named Hugo grabs Sarah by the neck. Cooper tries to help but gets punched in the jaw. The terrifying insect reappears and attacks Cooper, but Hugo manages to fend it off. Once they all come to their senses, Sarah wants to wake up everyone in the cafe. They're all trying to figure out what to do next. Roger suggests using his truck to escape, but Sarah warns that noise attracts the insects. Roger and PJ don't listen and get in the truck. The engine noise draws huge beetles that crush the vehicle. PJ jumps out but breaks his leg and gets run over by the out-of-control truck. The insects take Roger, who was driving. In the battle against the creatures, the police officer loses his life, and Alberta, Hugo's father, gets stung in the back by an insect. It seems like a minor injury, but no one knows how it will end. The remaining survivors seek refuge in the nearest building. The situation is dire, and they must come up with a plan to stay alive in this nightmarish world of giant insects and cocoons. Cooper had an idea. He proposed going to his retired military father, who had a bunker stocked with everything they might need. But could they survive the long journey there? Just as they contemplated this, several insects started flying toward them. Lychee waved her arms to shoo them away, but these creatures turned out to be blind, relying solely on their sense of hearing. Realizing that these monsters used sound to find their prey, the survivors decided to learn more about them. They came up with a plan to lure a beetle into a closet using a radio and then trap it inside. Although Lychee's idea of milking it for venom to study was met with hesitation, the group reluctantly agreed. They faced off with the terrifying insect again and successfully obtained a sample of its venom. As they waited for Lychee's findings, the group started reminiscing about their lives before this strange event. Each of them recalled hearing a high-pitched sound, like a dog whistle, before losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Lychee used makeshift equipment to analyze the venom. She discovered that it contained a complex of special proteins that acted as a sedative. She also found traces of the same red gas they had seen in the sky. Lychee suspected that the insects emitted this gas, but couldn't determine its purpose. Exhausted and wary, they decided to spend the night in the building. Their plan was to head to Cooper's father's bunker in the morning, stopping at each member's home along the way. Before sleep, Cooper tried to remember where he had met Sarah before, as her face seemed familiar. Unable to sleep, he went in search of food. Startled, he accidentally released several small bugs from a box. But what frightened him even more was the sudden appearance of Cindy. Cindy, who worked in television, proposed going to a studio with Cooper, where they could potentially contact the outside world. Cooper agreed, planning to return for the others in the morning. However, Cindy had different intentions. She wanted to leave with Cooper alone. Cooper began to realize his feelings for Cindy, but couldn't reciprocate them. The following morning, the group was awakened by noises coming from the closet. The trapped beetle was trying to escape, making disturbing sounds that could attract more of its kind. Albert took matters into his own hands and broke into the closet to destroy the beetle. Frightened, they realized it was time to leave. However, Litchi decided to stay behind, determined to wake up as many people as possible, believing it would make it easier to fight the insects. The rest of the group ventured outside, heading towards the city. Cooper and Sarah walked separately from the others, with Cooper wanting to talk to Sarah about their situation. Sarah wasn't pleased with his questions and labeled Cooper as limited and immature. They exchanged sarcastic remarks, each thinking they understood people well. Their journey led them to Albert and Hugo's house, where they needed to visit Hugo's bedridden mother. Cooper went inside with them, while the girls decided to wait outside. It was there that Sarah discovered a note with Cooper's phone number in her pocket. Unfortunately, Hugo's mother had already passed away. Albert emerged from the house upset, carrying a gun and expressing his readiness to move forward. Cooper warned him that firing the gun would attract giant beetles, but Albert seemed to ignore this advice. Now the group approached Cindy's brother's house. In the yard, they noticed several people in cocoons lying closely together. Suddenly, Cindy's brother emerged from the garage, holding another cocoon in his hand. But something had changed in him. He had become a grotesque mutant, part human and part insect. He attacked the survivors and wounded Cooper. Cindy tried to reason with her brother, but he grabbed her. Hugo came to her rescue, but Cindy pleaded with him not to kill her brother, failing to realize that there was almost nothing left of him in this monstrous creature. Eventually, Hugo and Albert managed to subdue the deranged mutant with forks. Sarah tended to Cooper's wound, while Hugo and Albert secured the windows and doors. Cooper asked Sarah not to hesitate to run away if he, too, transformed into a monster like Cindy's brother. The guy, whose name is Cooper, opens up to Sarah about his dreams of living in the woods with a girl like her and repopulating the planet after a catastrophe. They share more about themselves, and Cooper reveals that he recently lost his mother, just like Sarah. Meanwhile, Albert continues to explore the house but suddenly starts feeling unwell. Could it be the bite from the terrible insect taking its toll on him? He encounters Sarah in the kitchen but doesn't disclose his condition. Instead, he asks her to look after his son, similar to how she takes care of Cooper. Sarah is surprised by the request but agrees to help. Cooper, exhausted from the day, falls asleep. However, he is abruptly awakened by Cindy, who tells him that her brother was a good person and had always cared for her. Cooper assures Cindy that things will be okay, but she now wants him to take care of her. She undresses and tries to get close to Cooper, but he gently pushes her away, explaining that his mind is preoccupied with other concerns. Cindy feels hurt and leaves the room. The survivors continue their journey, and Sarah gazes at the mysterious red smoke, suspecting it originates from the nest of the terrible creatures. She wants to go there, in the hope of finding her mother. Cooper advises against it, citing the slim chances of success and the high risk. As they proceed, several giant wasps fly over the group of survivors. Everyone falls silent, hoping the insects will pass by. However, Cindy notices that Cooper and Sarah are holding hands out of fear. This enrages her, and she goes into hysterics, screaming and inadvertently attracting the beetles. The others try unsuccessfully to calm her down. Albert, in desperation, shoots Cindy with a rifle. Cooper and Sarah are shocked, but Albert claims it was necessary to stop her. A battle with the terrifying wasps ensues. Albert manages to eliminate several creatures, but one of them seizes him and attempts to carry him away. Cooper acts swiftly, intercepting the rifle and freeing Albert. However, he is attacked by an insect in the process. Sarah tries to help him, but the huge wasp releases Cooper and captures Sarah, flying away with her. Finally, after a long journey, Cooper, Albert and Hugo arrive at their destination. Cooper's father, Ethan, calls for his beloved dog, Lucy. Cooper urges his father to lower his voice, but Ethan is equally fond of Lucy and continues calling for her. In the evening, Albert unexpectedly loses a tooth, and soon after, he begins to transform into a grotesque mutant. He attacks Cooper, but Cooper tries to divert the terrifying creature's attention. It briefly loosens its grip, allowing Albert to shoot his own son. Hugo cries, but explains that Ethan had ordered him to do so. Other insects are drawn to the gunshot sound. Inside the bunker, the father suddenly turns off the light, bidding them all good night. The darkness envelops them as they hide from the impending threat. Cooper's memory takes him back to a moment when he was almost hit by a car. To his surprise, it turns out that Sarah was behind the wheel. They exchange words, and Cooper ends up giving her his phone number, pretending it's for car damage. In reality, he just wanted an excuse to see her again. This explains why Sarah had a note with his phone number, and it's also why Cooper found her face familiar. Cooper is abruptly awakened by a call from his father, Ethan. At breakfast, Ethan informs them that there are no government messages on the radio, implying that they are on their own. He hands Cooper camouflage clothes and outlines a plan for reaching a safe location. Cooper is unhappy about his father making decisions without consulting him, as he intends to sneak into the nest and rescue Sarah. Ethan refuses to help, leaving Cooper disappointed. Determined to save Sarah, he leaves on his own. However, Cooper's plans take an unexpected turn when he is apprehended by the military and thrown into prison. He is bewildered by the situation. In the neighboring cell, an elderly man explains to Cooper that the authorities believe they are all infected and will soon transform into mutant beetles. The old man shares his story, revealing that he was once part of the Lichy group, which had attempted to confront the insects but ultimately failed. The strange smoke from the beetle's nest turned out to be a flammable gas produced by the insects, leading to a devastating fire that claimed the lives of everyone in the group except for him. As Sarah awakens, she finds herself trapped in the nest of the terrifying insects, surrounded by many cocoons. She desperately attempts to escape. Meanwhile, Ethan and Hugo arrive at the location. Cooper tries to explain to the police that it's easy to determine who's infected by checking for a bite mark on their back. They agree to check Ethan's back, but it turns out he's already been stung, leading to a shootout. Simultaneously, the surviving old man undergoes a transformation into an insect and is promptly destroyed. Cooper's father manages to handle the confrontation with the police, allowing the three of them to escape from the scene, taking weapons and other valuable items, including explosives. Within the enormous nest, Sarah continues her exploration, horrified to discover the queen laying eggs. On the other hand, Ethan, Cooper, and Hugo continue their journey using bicycles they found. Ethan explains how he was stung while trying to rescue the neighbor's dog from a cocoon. The dog's barking attracted the beetles, and in the ensuing struggle, Ethan got stung. The trio reaches a cliff and spots the massive nest of grotesque insects. Ethan is now determined to infiltrate the lair and destroy it. Back inside the nest, Sarah watches in terror as the queen consumes people trapped in cocoons. She plans to distance herself but encounters a mutant child who detects her presence and starts screaming. Sarah urgently needs to escape. Ethan suddenly falls ill, prompting Cooper's desire to help him. However, Ethan restrains his son, handcuffing him to a tree, while Hugo knocks Cooper unconscious. With nothing to lose, Ethan decides to enter the nest covertly and detonate it. He bids his son farewell and departs for the nest's entrance. Meanwhile, Hugo regains consciousness and frees Cooper. The two boys disregard their father's warnings and head toward the nest. Sarah, still on edge, listens intently to every sound. Suddenly, Ethan approaches her, causing the frightened girl to mistake him for a beetle and stab his hand with a knife. After introducing themselves, Ethan explains how she can escape, comforting her about her mother's absence. Ethan discloses his mission to destroy the nest, and Sarah suggests leading him to the queen's lair. They arrive at the ominous location, only to discover that the queen is not there. Ethan instructs Sarah to leave, but they spot the queen above them, ready to attack. Ethan opens fire, but defeating this colossal creature proves challenging. Cooper and Hugo hear the gunfire and rush to assist. The queen emits a deafening sound, but Hugo, with hearing problems, remains unaffected. He tosses explosives into the queen's mouth just in time. Cooper continues to fire at her, but suddenly, his father begins to transform into a monster. The trio hastily makes their way to the exit, with Cooper triggering the explosives. The nest is engulfed in flames, leading to a massive explosion that shatters it into pieces. Cooper awakens in the hospital, greeted by Sarah and Hugo. They open the window and hear bird songs instead of eerie sounds. The trio heads out to the street where they begin to free people from cocoons. Finally, Hugo invites Sarah on a date, and they celebrate their victory over the monsters. However, their joy is short-lived as they suddenly spot something terrifying behind them. The nature of this new threat remains a mystery. Could the horrific insects have returned? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Flick Spoilers, signing off.